I remember one little belt feeling like this should be more successful because it's a good idea. So what can I do to continue to try to make it more successful? So I think that's what it is if you're feeling like this should be more successful than it is, then you have to keep working and changing and trying different things. Welcome to the podcast with Kilee Nichols. I'm Kilee, founder and CEO of the life-changing accessories brand Nickel & Suede and the successful style blog One Little Mama. I made the unlikely transition from stay-at-home mom to founder and entrepreneur. It takes a lot of courage to make a change like that, but I love the growth and the confidence that's come from stepping out of my comfort zone. This is the podcast for people who want to be inspired to be brave, to take a chance, and to change their life. I'll be sharing stories and actionable takeaways about working with your spouse, being a working mom, starting and growing a business, confidence, motivation, and more. So get ready to get inspired and to get started with Kilee Nichols. Hey guys, welcome to the podcast. I'm Kilee and you are with Kilee Nichols. And today is Friday. Happy Friday. I am excited to be talking to you about a question that I got recently from a listener. And that's always helpful. It gives me an idea of what would be helpful to talk about, what you guys are interested in, and gives me something to think about. So today I wanted to talk about a question that I got from a listener. And I love when I get questions and input from you guys because that helps me really focus the podcast so that I can fill needs and really chew on topics that I feel like would be helpful to you. And it's helpful for me to come up with ideas and reflect on these questions. So I had someone write in and say, I've started an art studio and I was really excited about it taking off, and I don't feel like it's taken off and been as successful as I initially thought. So what do you do when you feels like something's not working or succeeding like you anticipated? And I love that question because I feel like it's actually really applicable to a lot of things that in life, a lot of things that we do where we start something and it feels like this is going to be so great. I'm so excited about it. It's going to be amazing. And then maybe it gets off to a slower start than we thought. Maybe that's, starting a blog, starting an Instagram account, starting a business, trying a new recipe. It could be anything. And then it falls flat, or it just doesn't get off to the start that you thought it was going to. Or, maybe you've had success in the past. And so then you have this new venture that you're starting and you say, this is going to be so great because I know how to, I've had this success in the past. So I have this high expectation for this new exciting thing. And then it just doesn't live up to the expectations that you kind of had on this outset. So I've had experiences like this and I've thought, okay, this is something I can speak to, definitely. And in the world that we live in with social media and with YouTube and with Instagram and things, I feel like it's really easy to see other people's success and measure our own against it. Obviously, that's so cliche. But I also know that it's easy to lose track of time when it comes to other people's success. So I was at a conference a couple months ago, and they were talking about Sarah Blakely and Spanx, who I really admire and I love her company. And they were saying was her, I think, 18th anniversary for her company. And I thought, oh my word, 18 years? Are you kidding me? It's been that long? Like, first of all, amazing. Like, congratulations to them. Like, that's incredible. But how could 18 years have gone by? That is so much longer than I thought. And they are just rocking and they're so successful right now. But 18 years is a long time. That is a whole lot of long work for them to be like so successful and in the public eye right now. And everybody thinks they're so awesome, so amazing. But in their minds, they're probably thinking, heck yeah, it's been a whole lot of long, hard work for us to be this successful. And this was not overnight success for us, but all of us kind of discounted how long it took maybe for them to get that far. So, I wanted to kind of speak to the idea that it can take a lot of, like, a long time of hard work for success to add up. And initially, maybe we have these ideas of it's going to be immediate success, or the success that I'm looking for is going to happen right away. And so that's where these questions come in of, well, what do I do if it's not immediately succeeding? Should I make some changes right away? Should I quit? Should I change something? Because it feels like it's pretty risky to stay in it if it's not going to pan out. And so I get that. We definitely don't want to be wasting our time. Derek, you were saying earlier, we only have one life to live, right?
Time is your biggest asset, so
yeah,
you can't get it back.
You don't want to just, especially if you have kids and you have all these other things, you don't want to be wasting your time being on something and say, if it's not going to be successful, I can't spend 5 years in this.
Exactly, yeah.
So, great question. And I think I have a couple stories that I can share. And my experience is really all I can share about this topic. I can't say, if you're not making this much money within 2 years, definitely give up. That would not be good advice from me. I'm not qualified for that. So I think the first, there's a couple different ways you can look at it. If you feel like you're not succeeding, I thought, well, you can push through it. And, but I think really what you have to first initially think about is, well, what do you want to do? First, I think that's key. Like, what's motivating you in the venture that you're in? What's motivating you? Why are you doing it? And if it's to support your family, that is a pretty big risk. That is a pretty big area. So when I was thinking back about my story and how I got to where I am today, One Little Belt is kind of our origin story, and that's our first little Etsy shop. And it wasn't supporting our family initially. It was initially very much a hobby for me, a jobby, if you will. It was like a little side fun project for me where I was able to cultivate some confidence, some creativity, some learning. And so for me, like any sales were success for me. And so I had very little, like nothing to compare it to. It was just like, this is successful. I sold one belt. And so it was really easy to just keep going with that. And so we started that in 2009 and continued with that till 2015. And that was a long time to continue doing something that really only brought in, I think maybe 12. Soren would correct me. I've never been in the numbers very strongly back then, especially like $1,200 a month, maybe at its heyday. Not a whole lot, but I mean, it's a lot of belts for a small Etsy shop. But for me, the reason I was doing it was not to support our family. Although we thought, this is such a great idea. Why isn't this succeeding more? As we were like getting deeper into belts, I remember the summer before the earring idea happened, the nickel and suede origin happened, we were thinking belts should take off more. These tiny little baby belts, no one's doing them. No one's making belts in the way that we're making them. Weddings need belts for little kids. Baptisms, little belts are important. All these places where little belts, there's a need for them. So why aren't we doing more, selling more? Well, let's invest in more equipment. Let's spend all this money on more equipment. Let's invest, let's go all in on this so that we can really ramp up production. And so we did that right before nickel and suede started to take off, before the idea of nickel and suede happened. And that was kind of our leap of faith on that side of one little belt. But Soren was still working a full-time job. I was still being a stay-at-home mom. And so we were just in learning phase in that business. It was just learning for us. But we were still kind of questioning, why isn't this taking off more? And what I can see looking back now is that we didn't have a clue how to scale a business back then. We needed to learn a whole lot more, and we weren't really in risk-taking mode. We weren't doing the things that we're saying we're ready for this to take off more, like let's bite off a whole lot more than we can chew. Let's go after these risks. So I remember doing things to try to make One Little Belt more successful. And so I think what it is I remember One Little Belt feeling like this should be more successful because it's a good idea. So what can I do to continue to try to make it more successful? So I think that's what it is if you're feeling like this should be more successful than it is, then you have to keep working and changing and trying different things to figure out how to make it more successful. So I remember that's when I started One Little Mama. I started a blog so that I could figure out, can I get more customers this way? Or I would go to blog conferences, and I did all the things. Like if you listen to my recent podcast about how to learn how to do something new, there was 5 ways there. And I did all those things to say, this One Little Belt isn't as successful as I think it should be. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And so even though my family wasn't dependent on that income, in my mind, it was such a good idea. It should have been more successful. So let me do more things to learn more things. Like I need the photography to be better. Maybe I can style my kids this way. Maybe I can go to a craft fair and show the belts on. Like I remember I bought little plastic mannequins from China, and I styled outfits on these mannequins at the craft fair to try to show how cute the belts were, and just thinking outside the box to feel like, okay, this isn't working. What else could I do? And so it's constantly, I think, trying to evolve and change what you're doing so that you're getting a different result. And so it wasn't ever in my mind fine, let's just quit selling belts, because we were still selling them. It was just, I think we should be able to sell more. Why aren't we? And so then we did have the idea for leather earrings, and nickel and suede started taking off, but I still wasn't thinking, I'm going to quit selling belts. I was so determined that the belts were such a good idea that we kept doing belts for I think almost a year into nickel and suede. And yes, we eventually quit One Little Belt, but that was only because a better idea had come along that started taking over all of our time. And we actually did, Soren quit his job, and it became our full income to do something else. So we didn't quit, we pivoted. And that was because I think we took all that learning we gained from something else and put that energy into nickel and suede instead of One Little Belt.
So there's 3 things you can do.
Yeah.
You can, really grind, try out a lot harder.
Yeah.
You can pivot, or you can quit. And
Yeah.
You kind of did a combination of all 3, where you tried something new with it, with the blogging. You tried a lot harder with it.
Yeah.
You kind of pivoted, and then you quit. So
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's...
It's not like you have to just pick one of those 3 things to do. You can kind of do a multitude of them.
Yeah, I think what it is that you don't want to do is you don't want to just keep doing the same thing all the time. I think what I've seen people do that I think it doesn't work is post the same post on Facebook every day. If it's maybe it's MLM companies that I've seen do it, where it's just you post the same product every day to your same group of friends over and over and over again and think that's going to work. Isn't that the definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and over again and expect the same result. I think you just have to adapt and be okay, this isn't working. The results are speaking for themselves. So I'm going to change. And so one of the questions that kind of came with my reader question today was do I need to make a drastic change in order for something to happen? And I think one of the themes that you've heard from me, that's one of my themes, is I think small changes usually precede drastic changes. And that what I'm talking about are these small tweaks that add up, and you make a small tweak, you see if that works, you learn something small through that small change. And so that's asking for help, asking for advice, watching and seeing what are they doing? What could I learn from somebody else? Making a consistent goal of, I'm going to try, sharing, or I'm going to try posting, or I'm going to try using Pinterest more often, or, I guess if you're looking at recipes, I'm going to try doing it every day in a certain way. But I think small changes are way better than making drastic changes, because I think you learn better from small little tweaks, and that adds up to a bigger tweak. Because I think you got to listen to your intuition and your gut, and that those little things help you build a case for a big change in the end. And that big change might be quitting. It might be pivoting, but you don't know until you've said, okay, I think I'm feeling like I need to go a little bit this way. I think I'm feeling like I need to go a little bit this way. And that's going to lead you down your long-term path.
Quitting sounds so negative, but you learned things from One Little Belt that helped you in nickel and suede.
Yeah.
So although quitting is a hard term,
Yeah.
It could be a positive too.
Yeah. And I think I look at it more like I didn't quit, I evolved. And I feel like I am struggling a little bit right now with that evolution from, like, I did One Little Belt and then I moved to style blogging. And then now I'm kind of changing even from being a style blogger to being an entrepreneur. And I'm having a little bit of a hard time evolving there. Like, okay, am I a style blogger still? Am I an entrepreneur? Because I don't feel like I fully own the mantle of an entrepreneur, but that's kind of the space that I'm in right now.
You're a podcaster.
I'm a podcaster, but yeah, evolving, I feel like is probably, that's a positive word. So you're not necessarily quitting your old thing. I think you're bringing all the things that you had from your old, you know, everything from your life you brought with you. So you're evolving into this new, this new phase. And that evolution is where you're standing today, and you have a new chapter of your life. So, whether the art studio is successful at this very moment, like, you can use whatever skills you had from the past to help it be successful in the future. But it may take some tweaks. It may take some, one example is, like, we just went to Atlanta for a show, and it was our first time doing a wholesale show. And in my mind, we've been successful selling to customers for 5.5 years, but going to sell to boutiques is a whole new ballgame. And so we went to this show to sell to boutiques, and we signed up relatively late we knew that. So we were on the wrong floor for where we wanted to be. Our booth looked good, but, like, there were so many things that were against us in, like, how we wanted to present ourselves. And I just felt like, wow, we're back at the bottom again, like, after having been successful for 5.5 years. And so, which I just had to, like, eat a little slice of humble pie and be like, all right, we're showing up next time, like, really who we want to be. Like, I got to learn from all of this again. And it was just, it's fine. Like, I knew going into the show, this is going to be a learning experience. I am not coming in as the expert, even though I feel like I've been successful in the past. So my definition of success for the show is basically just like, did we learn something? Yep. That's the only level of success I can, like, have here. And I think that's another takeaway that I wanted to share today is, like, you have to define your level of what's successful. I was talking to my mom about this the other day, and she was saying, Kilee, after you've had big peaks of success, which we've been fortunate to have some cool successes, it can be hard to reset your success meter and to be, like, really happy on, for a typical month. Yeah, your expectations get all out of whack. When you've won, like, one big award, then you feel like you have to keep winning big awards in order to define success. And so I think that's something else to keep in mind, maybe, is to remember, like, what could I define as success so that I can continue forward? And so maybe if you miss the mark on, I don't feel like we're being successful right now, maybe you need to kind of reset that adjustment so that you can say, okay, well, we missed our initial, what would be successful now that we know, how could we reset what success looks like going forward, and what's sustainable. So that was really helpful advice, because I feel like we've had some huge successes if I can reset my meter. Like, Derek, you and I were talking about how the copywriting that, we had a new hire recently, and I'm just loving the copywriting that she's doing because it's so on brand. It's so feel good. That
success may not be a brand new building that
right.
you've had, but that success is still important and something to appreciate.
Yeah.
Even though, yeah.
Yeah, like we did. We moved into a brand new building a year ago, which feels like a huge thing, but we can't move into a brand new building every 6 months in order to feel like we're successful. I wouldn't even want that. But the copywriting, which, if you're subscribed to our Nickel and Suede emails, I highly recommend reading them. They're just a joy to read right now. And that has been really fun addition. So yeah, that's a great success. So yeah, I think redefining your definition of success. So yeah, I think it's really important. You could define quitting. You can talk about quitting, but I think really it's way better to think about you instead of quitting, what you're doing is you're taking your skills that you've acquired, you're evolving and you're pivoting instead. And so that's what I've done. I've taken my strengths and seen, okay, I've got one little belt. My skill sets actually were really more suited for blogging, and that's what I really enjoyed. And so I pivoted into blogging, and that's where I learned to have an authentic voice. I learned to share my style and grew my creativity there. And I did pretty well. And I realized, but I don't have 500,000 followers. Like I did well, but I wasn't the most successful blogger out there. And then we were able to create this cool jewelry brand. And so then Nickel and Suede started. And so then I pivoted and evolved again. And my strengths in strategic thinking and in design actually started to be implemented there. And so I pivoted, and now I own a company and work with my husband, and we do that. And so taking learnings and pivoting, and I wouldn't say I quit any of those things, but I changed my path because that's kind of where my strengths led me. That being said, I now am 5.5 years in on that journey, and there's been like a lot of times in the last few months where I haven't felt very successful myself. That's because I've been doing a lot of things that I've had to dig deep in because I'm weak in some of the areas that my job is requiring of me, because I'm not doing the creative and the styling every day because that's just what my job's requiring of me right now. So there's been a lot of days where I've said, I quit, or I want to quit. I don't want to evolve anymore. I would like to just quit. And Soren and I both said that. So I think it's completely 100% natural. And I think I want to give everyone permission to feel like you want to quit, or like quitting should be on the table to feel like when something is not feeling successful. Like that's the natural course of your brain, is to say, I want to quit. I feel like quitting. This is not feeling successful. And when it doesn't feel successful, it's no fun. So just, you have permission to feel that way. That's totally normal. And the discomfort and pushing through that is really hard. So then I think just comes back to, what do you want to do? What's your motivation? Why are you here? What's your end goal? And do you want it bad enough to push through that? And I think the mindset of knowing that you can, and that it'll be worth it, and that you've got the goals in place that say, I'm going to make a difference, and this is where I need to be, can help you do that and can help you push through that. I'm totally open to, where's my next evolution going to happen? And I'm still learning, and that's, I think, the most important thing. I'm still seeing progress in myself, and I'm proud of that, but it doesn't mean it's always fun. And I think, the way that I would just wrap it up or finish is, it is so key and important to me to listen to my gut and listen to my intuition. And I think that's what I would recommend to anybody who's thinking about, like, what do I do when I feel like something's not working and not succeeding? And listen to why you feel like quitting. And lots of times when I feel like quitting, it's because I'm scared, and it's because I feel like I just can't do it. And that is it's like coming from such a place of scarcity and negativity, or, maybe the other side of it would be like, I can't quit because I'm afraid of what other people will think of me. But you need to quit. And so I think it's just really balancing that. I said in my other podcast, like, stop caring what other people think of you. And I think you need to do what you need to do. And you're going to get there by taking making these small changes and saying, okay, I've done everything I can to improve, to pivot, to make changes. And if something's still not working, then okay, I know what the changes I need to make. And that could be closing something down and moving on to something that really does excite you, because you won't be excited anymore when it feels like it's just not working. I feel so low when something is not working. I feel like I'm so defeated. Or you'll feel like, you know what, I'm afraid and I need to get braver and I need to do what it takes to get through this and learn what I haven't learned yet, and then I'm going to be successful. And you're going to taste that excitement of conquering your fears and getting past it. And for me, where I feel like I'm not succeeding right now is because I've got a lot of things that I'm nervous about, and it's hard for me to get past some of these fears. And if I'm willing to take them head on, then I'm going to feel proud of myself and I'm going to make it through and be the person that I'm wanting to be in the future. And so that's worth it to me. So that's where I would encourage you to really just listen to your gut, listen to your intuition, and take those small steps that are going to get you closer to understanding what your gut is telling you and what the universe, what God, what your intuition really says that you need to do for yourself in your situation. And don't let fear be the thing that stops you from either direction. So I hope that helps. I hope that helps you kind of think through some of your thoughts of, what do you do when it feels like something's not working and not succeeding? So I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you have any thoughts, what resonated with you? You can always shoot in a message on Facebook or on Instagram, and you can always watch this on YouTube and leave comments there. So thanks so much for listening. We'll see you back next week. Thanks for listening today to With Kilee Nichols. Stay tuned next week for another episode. And if you can't wait until then, you can find me at onelittlemama.com, MOMMA, for beauty, our family, style tips, and more. And you can find my business at nicholandswade.com with the and spelled out. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.